Thank you, everybody, for coming back to another episode of Fret Buzz, the podcast. My name is Aaron Sepchik, and this is my co-host,
Joe McMurray.
Yeah. And today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Cole Holland.
Hey.
Hi. How's it going, Cole?
Great. Good to see you again, Aaron.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks for coming on.
Yes, very delighted.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some education, some job opportunities, as we kind of always get into. I've known Cole for a very long time. He actually was a student of mine many years ago. He came to me wanting to play the solo for Hotel California, I believe.
Yeah, that was exactly it.
Yeah, and I kind of got Cole started on his journey into guitar theory, and he kind of took it from there, obviously, as you'll see as we get into today. So yeah, let's just jump in. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself, Cole. And
okay,
I think you have a website as well, no, it's just Hollandaise.
Right, yeah.
I love
my
that.
name is Cole Holland, and there is another Cole Holland artist out there, so I chose Hollandaise to kind of give, I guess, somewhat of a flair. Of a creative flair to the.
Are you like a big fan of Eggs Benedict?
I do enjoy a good Eggs Benedict, good poached egg every now and then.
Is it spelled like that with the A-I-S-E at the end? I don't know how to say
yeah, it's D-A-Z-E, so H-O-L-L-A-N-D-A-Z-E.
Oh, that's totally different.
Being in a daze, like dazed and confused.
Yeah, okay, you took that a different direction than I was.
Mm-hmm.
My head's on food, it's breakfast time.
Yeah, I know, I understand, exactly. Sounds real good right now. But yeah, Hollandaise, I do have a website I've been adding stuff to. I need to update it because it's been a busy year, past year. But yeah, I met Aaron. I grew up in Virginia, and I met him in Virginia. He was working at, and it still is, I believe, right? We're still working at Bach to Rock.
Yep, Bach to Rock, yep.
So I just started taking lessons at some point and found myself there. And then, like you said, just kind of jump-started my my needs to want to learn A solo, because I didn't know how to do anything really at first. I was just playing, like I didn't just want to play around. And eventually,
just like any other player, just tabs off the internet and whatnot.
Exactly.
And I will say, in terms of when Cole did come to me, he
10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. As a teacher, you have your normal students that just come and go and they learn, and you kind of the ones that it's a hobby. You also know the ones where it's not a hobby and it's something that they're a little more serious about. But from the get-go, I kind of had this feeling that Cole, and I'm serious about this. Cole had this thing about how it was your future and you were into it, and everything that I'd said, you were absorbed. And I was like, all right, Cole's got it, man. You've got it. And you did, man. You just took it from, it was great. Awesome.
And I still had no plans to even attend music school at that point at all. It wasn't really actually until I moved to Florida that I started taking everything really seriously. Not that you said I didn't take everything seriously then, I did, but then everything kind of changed, I think, once I got halfway through high school, and I was like, okay, well, I also need to start working on the career path.
Right.
And I didn't even, at first, music was just music. It was my only hobby besides video games when I'm back then. So it was just playing guitar all the time, but then it really did turn into something special.
So how did that change? What was that transition like?
Well, when I moved, I had to find a teacher, because once I started taking lessons, for me, being in front of a teacher as opposed to being self-taught, I felt like I was going to do better and learn more and be more efficient if I had someone in front of me teaching me and showing me visually what's going on.
Right, so and holding you accountable. Exactly,
right. So I found a teacher, and he just knew, he was really big into a lot of jazz and a lot of all styles of music. But what I'm getting at is he kind of introduced me to jazz. I never really listened to jazz at all. I've been to any jazz shows. So we started getting into theory and how to improvise. And I just dove into it, and I got really serious for a little bit, and then started getting into all different styles. But I remember when I first got introduced to jazz and what you can do on the guitar that you're not really aware of until you start listening to other styles of music, and how much there is for you to learn on the guitar. Like it's you know, it's a life's work. You're never going to learn it all. But I just got so excited, I guess, and I got really serious about it. I want to really take my time with it and spend 5-6 hours a day and see how much I could get under my fingers in that day, and it just blossomed into this beautiful relationship with the guitar.
It's true when you start studying jazz and you realize that like there are no rules, there's no limit to what you can do,
right?
Harmonically or what's that?
So I think really it's just finding your passion. That happened at the time, and it still is. I've really found something within guitar, not just playing guitar, but a realm of guitar that really caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just felt a strong connection to it. And that's why still to this day, I'm about to start spending a lot more time again with like solo guitar arrangements and everything, because that stuff really is really cool to me. How you can stretch harmony and how to play guitar like a piano and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool to me.
Yeah, to be able to sit down and play by yourself without a band is really nice. There's just a guitar sitting somewhere you can actually do.
And arguably one of the hardest things to do if you really want to put on a full show. It's very tough.
Yeah.
To build your repertoire up, and that's one big problem of mine is repertoire, because I spent so much time learning a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and now my repertoire is very vast, but all sorts of styles. And like I just have such a strong passion for jazz, and I just need to spend more time with some more standards and more obscure standards, because that's just an art form that you need to spend time with, hours and hours and hours and hours with.
Yeah, when I was in music school, I had a hard time putting the amount of time I needed into a song, and I didn't even realize I wasn't putting in enough, but I just had a hard time like memorizing everything and keeping everything straight and being able to also know the chord progression well enough to solo and get off the beaten path. And since I've left school, I've found that I'll sit down with a song. Like recently I've been playing Joy Spring by Clifford Brown, and I think I spent like 6 hours the first day on it, like all day. Like it's all I did that whole day. And then for weeks I've been taking like every day I'm learning. If I learn a new lick or I'm thinking about a different strategy, I do it over Joy Spring, over that progression. And like now, like I played it at the bar last night. It's like one of my go-to things. Very nice. in that period of time, some other things that I haven't been working on, they fall by the wayside, and I'd say they're not performable anymore. It's a constant battle. To keep all your stuff up to date.
I know, it really is. And I just lost a lot of that because I had spent the past year picking from a master list of like 270 songs of primarily R&B and Motown music and funk and rock and pop and a little bit some standards here and there. But it's hard, when we talked about time earlier, it's really hard just having enough time in the day to do what you want to do. And sometimes you got to focus on stuff that you need to do for work, and then focus on yourself, and then okay, now I have an hour to brush up Don Lee or something, or work on a solo, something like that. But you don't always get time to do all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, just when I first met you, Aaron, I started getting into some pedals and whatnot. I had a multi-effects processor, some Boss ME50, and I had a little looper in it. So I remember just like I would learn chords from you and learn. We'd have probably definitely some scale sheets, probably pentatonic scales and some modes. I know we were working on modes as I was leaving. Which I've come back to, actually, the basic modes. It's so funny how you come back to the basics and just really get that stuff under your fingers, because it's essential and it's easy to skip over it. But I would just put it on a chord progression, just solo, and play for hours. And that's like when you have that playground like jazz, it gives you that space to be as an improviser to really just go forth and do whatever you want. And when you can really find so many cool, unique ways to play the same thing over and over again, these new approaches, it's like, for someone who all guitar players love improvising, of course, we live for the solos. But that just really sparked something for me with jazz, and whether it was hearing a pianist or sax player or something, going out live and hearing shows, I felt some energy. I was really drawn to it. So I just got sucked in, and I was studying with that guy for a while in Orlando. He ended up living with me for a year. He needed a new place to stay. So it was like free in exchange for free lessons every day.
Oh, that's awesome.
He got a free place to stay.
There's nothing like
So,
living with a teacher.
so that was absolutely, I credit a lot of that too, because you're right there every day, like working, practice and study every day. Like you see your teacher every day. And
Yeah.
of course we became great friends. We wouldn't have lived together if it was going to be, I think, simply just a teacher-student relationship. It was a friendship too. You know, we were really good friends. Even to
No,
this
I
day.
totally, that's how my teacher, Tony and I,
Yeah.
he lived with me for 2.5 years, and
Hmm.
every day it was like, let's dig into
Yeah.
anything and everything, and
Yeah.
let's just completely just, yeah.
So whether it was like, you know, studying players with a heavy jazz background, but then apply that elsewhere, or studying fusion. So whether it's like, you know, this guy was a big John McLaughlin fan, so all
Mm.
sorts of that stuff right out of the gate. Jaco Pastorius, Ted Green, like Alan Holdsworth, like a lot of heavy hitting guitar players, and,
Okay.
and studying various genres and
Yeah.
seeing how, um, you know, how serious all these guys take their theory and their practice and everything. And if you want to get to that level, there's a lot of stuff you really take in consideration. Sometimes you have to not even think about how you're approaching the guitar, but just how you're approaching music and the kind of headspace you put yourself in, because you can fill your head up with a lot of knowledge and a lot of theory and a lot of stuff, and then that can all go right out the window. Whether you're in a recording session or whether you're playing live, you have to, that's one thing I definitely learned this year. Is I've got so much cool stuff I've learned and I have on my fingers, but when it gets into that real setting, when you have to apply and you're on the spot, sometimes it just doesn't come out right at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, videotaping and audio recording myself a lot the past year, it's does wonders for somebody when you hear yourself playing live and you're like, oh, that's not at all what I heard
Yeah.
when I was playing that.
Yeah. Self-review is extremely important.
Yeah. So for many years, it was just like I had all this cool stuff I learned, and I kind of got thrown into a lot of dense music really quick, and I didn't fully know what I was doing, but I would play a lot of really cool stuff, and it would just sound like sometimes, oh, that sounds like John McLaughlin. I'd listened to so much of him like earlier on. It would be kind of like, it would just be mumbled like a sax player playing nonsense in the saxophone, just kind of like playing a bunch of stuff, but there's no meaning. There wasn't any real melody there. So now it's definitely, at this point in my life, taking a step back and realizing how you can really utilize all of that theory knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. So you spent how much time with this instructor, and then all the while you weren't actually preparing for Berklee, or were you?
No, well, I was preparing for
Something.
degrees in music. I was preparing for degrees in music.
Right.
At that point, once he became my teacher and lived with me for that time.
Right.
That was like, I think I was a senior in high school, or end of senior year, going into the first year of college. So I went into a local university there and pretty much decided, okay, I'll do 2 years and get all my
Your gen eds.
core classes, all that stuff taken out of the way. So when I get to Berklee, I can just try and focus on exactly what I want to do, or study with as many people as possible. But at that point, there was definitely some sort of certainty that I was going to be doing something in music, whether or not I'd be pursuing like a full like bachelor's degree, which I ended up getting. You know, that was still under question. But I definitely wanted to go to Berklee, and my teacher had gotten accepted to Berklee full ride. As a Canadian, he could not. Or no, actually, he got accepted because he got the scholarship. That's what he got accepted. He got the scholarship of being one of the Canadian residents or something. I don't know. But then he couldn't go because he couldn't pay for housing. So he kind of already knew a little bit of ways around the curriculum and what they might expect. So I think in a way it was kind of preparing me a little bit to go to Berklee.
Okay.
And then kind of just so happened to be that I did really well in my audition, got a scholarship, and ended up there in the fall of 2014.
Very cool. Okay.
So this is one of the things that I'm really interested in talking to you about. Like, I went to music school at George Mason.
Okay.
I was in their jazz department, doing jazz guitar. But I remember when I first got the idea in my head, like Berklee was what immediately came to mind for me.
Yeah.
And then like I looked at the price tag and I was okay, maybe
instantly swayed.
Maybe this isn't the right course of action for me.
Right.
But I'd really like to know what is it about Berklee that sets it apart from, say, George Mason's jazz program. I mean, I realize that there's probably things to do with the connections out of school. But I mean, I'm not sure what the right answer is, but I'd like to dive into it.
I mean, the connections thing is a big thing, especially at Berkeley, because you have, if you were to go look at the faculty list of just the guitar department alone, I think it's
Pat Metheny went through there,
80.
right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he had taught there briefly at a young age, I believe, as
like
well.
18 or 19, right?
Yeah, he was one of the first and only to just run through there and already kind of. He already figured out all the chordal stuff and all the bitonality stuff. He had his own way of thinking about all that. It was really crazy.
I mean, it's Pat. I mean, he's crazy.
Yeah, he literally knew how to.
It's really good.
To stack the harmony and the keys over one another and make it work. But yeah, I believe it was like close to 100 different guitar faculty members, guitar teachers alone there, something like that. At least 80. So you have so many people from like David Fusinski to what is that one guy's name? Tomo. I think it's Tomo Fujita. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Well, there's first of all there's lots of names that get attracted. So when you're looking at you want to go to the school, there's a lot of kind of eye candy at first with all these names, people you can study with, and some really, really cool courses. I mean, for me, it was a big draw for the faculty. Like I made some great relationships with some faculty members there, and the diverse amount of styles, because you can get so into like some sort of very specific things. So I got into Indian rhythmic solfege while I was there, which was like super cool. Like there's some courses that are provided there that you're not going to get anywhere else. But for me, whether or not you're going there for connections, of course, for me, it was partially connections, but also to get my degree. Some people go there for a year. They don't get a degree just to meet the teachers. I mean, the teachers there are world class. I mean, some of the best in the world that are there doing labs and whatnot. I mean, it's hard to find somewhere where you can have like a Lenny Bro lab where you just go over stuff of Lenny Bro's arrangements. Stuff like that. I think it's really, really unique to only that specific place. You can find stuff, online now and everything, but to get all that jam-packed in one area per se, so much talent and so much diversity in talent, it's remarkable.
It's great to hear. I mean, it sounds like you're really satisfied with it all.
I was very satisfied. I mean, yes, the money-wise, it was tough. But thank God for the scholarship. A lot of people there, that were very, very good, be better than me. We're not on scholarship and should be, I think, so sometimes there's that divide, I guess you could say, between people, when you're out of school that costs a lot of money and you see people that deserve more and don't get it. There's this kind of thing there, kind of it might push you away because, well, why would I go there if I'm not going to be able to afford it anyways, or you don't know if it's going to be right for you. I don't know. There's so many factors at play when you look at the price tag at first, I guess.
Yeah, and it's not like you can really. I never felt like while I was in school I had time to have a job. I felt like
it's tough
for all the effort that I was the money and time I was putting into school.
Yeah,
I couldn't like go and get some sort of part-time job that was going to pay for a little bit of school. I'd rather completely, give it my 100%.
Yeah,
do as learn as much as I could while I was there, and then get out there and start making real money.
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't do much work when I was there, but I tell you what, there's some of the variety of courses they have there. But whether it's not, because I took some amazing harmony courses as well. I mean, advanced modal harmony, all sorts of stuff. Advanced modal, a bunch of stuff on modal harmony, and then some more stuff on like Indian modes and the ragas and stuff like that. So it's just like you can get into all sorts of stuff. I mean,
hey, you see
I
that?
didn't. Yeah, exactly.
That's
right. Yeah. So I didn't even expect to get into all that stuff. I always like I'd listen to some Indian classical music every now and then, but I didn't know a lot about it. So I got to learn a bunch of stuff about that, the rhythmic side of things, and culturally speaking, where it came from, and the differences between North and South India. All this stuff. It's really remarkable. And then
we did an episode. I think it was like episode 10 or somewhere around there. We did an episode on world music.
Yeah.
And we were getting into a bunch of that, but I think the Indian music is incredible too. I was in India.
Yeah.
I went to India for my honeymoon actually about a year and a half ago, and we were in North India, and like I never actually found. It's hard to find the music while you're there.
Really?
Like in a place where
Yeah.
maybe if I had spent more time in Delhi in the big cities,
Yeah.
but I saw a lot of like folk music.
Yeah.
Like in Udaipur down southwestern Rajasthan, they had like a very specific. I mean, I guess it's like if you're in the mountains of North Carolina, you hear bluegrass and there's
Right.
like remnants of Celtic music coming through the Appalachians, and if you're out west, there's hints of Native American music mixed with, like, I'm thinking of Arizona.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting to see the different types of music in different parts of India.
Yeah. And I think what's great about Berkeley is that they have all these ensembles too. I mean, so many different kinds of ensembles and they're getting more and more like so every little tiny finite kind of drama, like specific kind of dramas, whether it's doing like the having an ensemble and doing Indian classical music or doing just the music of Wayne Shorter or doing just like a neo soul thing. That's been a very popular thing the past couple of years. And actually one of the pioneers of it, per se, Roy Hargrove, just passed away. And he did a lot for neo soul, just kind of bridging R&B and jazz and hip hop and all together. And there's a lot of that going on right now, definitely. That's a big thing there. So tailoring to both what's new, what people want to do, and also tailoring to a bunch of other stuff that people they didn't know they would ever get into. Like I didn't think I'd get into any fingerstyle country stuff like Jerry Reed and Chet Atkins, and I did the ensemble there like 6 times in a row, the Jerry Reed and Chet Atkins stuff, and that was amazing. I learned so much more stuff about solo guitar and how to take care of your fingers, nails. These nails. Yeah, this one broke, but these are good.
You clip off your pinky.
Yeah,
and then glue it to your.
I use my pinky though. And actually, I got so much dexterity. I can pick chords easier with my pinky. That's the one thing about Lenny Breau actually is that his pinky or something was deformed, so he was able to actually get a little more strength or something. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just making a joke. Last week we had a classical guitarist on, and he was telling us a funny story. So check out that episode. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, one of the some of these. The way what they use for nails is hilarious. I remember the chair of the guitar department at Berkeley, her assistant chair, Kim Perlak, I believe she's chair now. She would use a little ping pong ball.
That's what he said.
Yeah, is that it too? She orders these specific kind of ping pong balls and then cuts them up. That's the thing. Yeah. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, me neither until now. Now it's apparently a thing. That's awesome.
I just think it was so cool though. Specifically with the Jerry Reed, Chet Atkins thing, is that you get people within the fingerstyle realm of guitar, who either have a classical background or they don't really, and so a lot of these people it's kind of funny. I think a lot of the classical players. The thumb pick thing is a big thing for me. I don't use a thumb pick. So I see a mix. I see a lot of these classical players that have a lot of practice and time studying using, nylon, the traditional approach, using a nylon string, getting that fingerstyle approach down. And then for me, it took me a long time to get used to it, but it's so fun to see how people get around the fretboard with just the way they're brought up, whether it's classical style or whether they just were a rock player all their life or whatever. It's very interesting to see how they approach the fretboard. And you learn a lot just from looking at and watching other people. I mean, that was one of the best things about being face to face with so many great teachers there. And while I was at Berkeley, I had the privilege to study with like 5 different guitar teachers, I think, or something like that. And then, of course, ensembles and labs. But just being in front of someone with such a sheer amount of talent and just watching them, because sometimes you can't really do much but just watch and take in as much as you can, because it's kind of just so intense and it's so mind-boggling when you're in the moment, like seeing somebody right in front of you doing this absolutely insane thing, guitar, and they're like, oh, well, I'll maybe be able to do that in 10, 15 years.
So going into Berkeley, what was because I'm sure there was an intimidation factor. How was it like actually? Because I mean, it's world renowned. I'm sure there's lots of people, who are listening to podcasts who have heard of Berkeley, even in India or wherever it is across seas. We have listeners from all over the world. Berkeley's got such a big name around it. Going into Berkeley, it's I can't imagine what that would be like in terms of Wow.
I was very
This is
nervous,
a lot. Yeah.
very nervous, very intimidated. You know, I knew I was getting thrown into a place where there'd be a lot of competition. And for me, I'm a very competitive person, so the competition was good.
Now, is that evident? Is it, are the people there, are they competitive, or is it more of a brotherhood? Or, I mean, is that competitive nature known?
Yes and no. I mean, because the competitive nature goes as far as when you just see someone just destroying your world. Like this person comes in and they're like 18 and you are on your last semester
Right.
and they're just eating up everything that you spent like all this time on, you know? And
Right.
so there's certain things like that where it's like it pushes you see someone come in and it just really pushes you to want to play hard, practice harder, do more because it's just you just there's such a sheer amount of talent. There's so many people that come through there. They're just so extremely good.
Oh yeah.
It just blows your mind. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I was just so intimidated going in there first, and I would have some tough times during like the audition, like the audition process in the beginning and like the rating process because they have a rating system there as well that helps you get placed in the higher level ensembles and whatnot. So just some of the auditions at first, like being in the room with like 2, 3 really heavy hitting faculty members,
Mm-hmm.
and just I don't know. You have to. I wasn't as good as I am now, but like dealing with stress. Like I'm really good about dealing with stress now. But like that's the thing, you have to be able to put aside. Yeah, I'm a good player because it can all go right out the window when you're nervous or when you can't get your head right and just can't get your head clear. It all can go right out the window. And I just had there'd be so much stuff. You know, you have all this whole big arrangement chord solo thing I had prepared when I first got there in the audition. It just went all out. I got so nervous, it just went all out the window. Like, it came back together. It was like Moonlight in Vermont, right? I did like a Johnny Smith arrangement of Moonlight in Vermont because I had been going over that like before I got there.
Right.
And it just like the second chorus was good, but the first chorus was like rough. Had to really bring it on home at the end, you know,
Yeah.
and tie it back together. But it's just it can be really intimidating. But you have to not get discouraged. You have to be encouraged by the fact that there's so many people that do want to share their knowledge with you. They don't just want to be walking around like Mr. and Mrs. Big Shot and like just have this like glowing aura, like they're just gonna be floating above you, like you're never gonna get there. Like people are very open to want to help teach each other new concepts and whatnot. It's just
You talking about students are very
yeah.
open, like older students or more.
Yes, both students and of course teachers. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be a good teacher if you're just gonna
No,
be like, hey, sorry, you're not gonna be as good as me. Just like
So I have a question that comes to mind. Within the past week or two, there's been this discussion with like Rick Beato and Adam Neely about movies that are out, and how they portray music and specifically schools. They're talking about one specific movie,
yeah,
and the brutality behind it.
yeah.
Were there any moments for you at Berkeley that were, I can't say brutal, but brutal?
Yes, yes,
Like points where you're just like, holy, like, wow, this is
very much so.
okay. Which is, in my opinion, a good thing. I mean,
it was a very good thing. It was the best learning experience I had, and it happened my last 2 semesters there. It was with a private teacher by the name of David Tronzo. He's a primarily a slide guitar player that's very much in the realm of jazz and beyond. He does a lot of avant-garde, even prepared guitar type stuff. But he's one of the only slide jazz guitar players I think there is out there playing bebop and straight ahead stuff with slide, and then very much more
cool.
Very much more beyond that. But that's just like to kind of give you in a nutshell what this kind of guy he is. He's just very out there. He's very, very serious, which is you have to be, like, especially with jazz. You have to give respect and give credit where it's due, and you have to really spend a lot of time knowing your stuff there and knowing the history. And he was just really big on knowing the history, knowing your shit. And you come in, you're not prepared. What are you doing here? I mean, it's a little thing. It's really simple. It's just like, but it's stuff that most teachers won't call people out on.
Right.
Because they either don't want to create some sort of animosity between them, I suppose, or create an awkward or tense learning environment. However, he would push me to go home and practice. And that was his goal. And that's, I understand he's like, it was to push you and go home, be like, hey, listen, today was really bad. You, I was going to kick you out within the first 15 minutes. You should go home and really think about this today, and like where you're putting your money, and take this seriously. Otherwise, you might as well just stop showing up. It's like kind of pretty essentially like that.
Yeah. You're wasting my time, and you're wasting your time.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I like this guy already.
So my last semester, I was studying with Sean Purcell at George Mason, and I remember he was one of the first people that told me I need to drop out of bands.
Yeah.
He was very serious, like, because I was telling him, like, he's like, you need to practice this more. And I was like, well, like, literally, I have spent every waking moment of my life doing music. And he's like, well, I want you to tell me every waking moment of your life what exactly you're doing. And he's like, you went to band rehearsals. Like, I was like, well, I'm playing music. And he's like, how much is that paying for your schooling? How much is that paying for your future? I was like, well, it's the networking, and it's people depending on me. Is like, no, you need to drop out of the bands.
Yeah.
That was tough to hear.
It was just getting a taste of the real world, and like talking about things like New York. This teacher of mine, David Tronso, has spent a lot of time in New York gigging and touring around the world. But, just talking about, like, for instance, do I want to go to New York? He asked one day. I'm like, I mean, sort of. Maybe he's like, it's just no answer, dude. I'm like, well, yes. And so just kind of like he's preparing me, especially in the world of jazz in New York. It's very strict, and you can get essentially, I guess, hazed, if you will, if you go there and you don't have your stuff together, or if you show up to a gig late or not prepared, or you got this attitude. There's a million different things that could happen if you don't have your stuff together, and all it takes is for one person to say something bad about you, and that one person's going to tell their friends. They're going to tell their friends. Before you know it, you've kind of been like blacklisted in this town. So the last thing you want is to show up somewhere new and make a fool out of yourself, or show up somewhere and not be prepared, not have the right energy and attitude to bring forth like a very sustainable and energetic, like, creative atmosphere. But just really give me a taste of the real world, and that made a big difference in how I deal with pressure, and how I deal with stress, and how I approach the guitar, and how I approach thinking about music.
It's good. I know it's hard for a lot of people to take. I mean, we are humans, and we're fragile.
Right. You're gonna have a bad day before you even go in and have a worse day.
Yeah,
there's days where I was having a terrible day, and I got to go into this, not in the right headspace. I was working on a bunch of other work, and I didn't get to go through the solo piece as much as I wanted. I'm already pissed at myself, and you go in and it gets worse, and you just have to go work, and then it's just, and everybody has those days, but you need to use those to grow and learn and really evaluate yourself.
That's exactly why am I here, and why am I doing this, and how serious am I taking this? Is this
right?
It's a wake up call to a lot of people, and a lot of people need that. They need that.
Yeah, it was a wake up call for me. That was like my second one, kind of around that time, too, of really need to take my work seriously and reevaluating. And still, even now, like, it's a big thing. I'm now how I go about work and what I need to do to really get what I want.
Right. Being able to see
many factors,
3 to 5 steps down the road, and being able to kind of set yourself up for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one thing for living in the moment. Sure, that's extremely important, but you always have to have this kind of grand vision of what am I working towards, and what do I see for myself down the road, and how do I get to that? How do I set myself up for those situations?
Despite all of this, I mean, you can make out this whole jazz scene and this playing jazz to be this really, I think if I was listening in, I would be intimidated right now if I wasn't a jazz player and I was interested in becoming one. But I want to backstep a little bit. Like, if you're starting jazz, like, you don't need to start with bebop. You don't need to go out and Donna Lee as your first. Like, that's actually stupid, I think.
Yeah.
Like if you've never picked up a guitar and you try to play a Joe Satriani song, like, that's just not the place to start. Like, start with like a nice standard, something like Modal, like something like So What from some
exactly.
Like, you got to start take baby steps and enjoy the process.
Right.
And you don't need to go out and be able to like rip a bebop solo like Pat Martino off the bat. Like, you know, learn to play arpeggios and play a couple play less.
Yeah, exactly. Play less. That's just the problem is that, you know, especially I think as a guitar player, and this is something I learned when I was taking lessons again with that guy, is how much stuff I had skipped over because there's so much cool and dense stuff that you want to learn. You can learn, like, let's just say, you know, like, here, look at this little air freshener guy here. So let's say that this is like the tree of knowledge and of like everything guitar, right? So everybody starts here. Everybody starts here at the bottom, right? And then like here's like your modes and like scales and stuff. And then look at this. Here's like a really cool way you can play these scales over these chords and everything, right? So then you skip like all this stuff, like learning all these standards. So here's a really intense song. Oh, I just learned this really dense song. Now I can play whatever I want. No, like you can't. I skipped over. It's so easy to want to skip over so much of the basic stuff and so much stuff that seems really boring or it's not going to take you anywhere. And that was a big problem of mine. And especially because there is so much stuff when we talk with any realm of music, within jazz, that it's like you can get really deep too fast. And then you find yourself, like I found myself like in the middle of all, like, well, okay, I got to take a step back and go and really learn the basics.
Yeah.
And just because I was stressed. It was stressing me out, like not being able to like blow over these changes the way I could. Like I would be able to do it for a little bit, then it'd go bad, then it's all gone. You don't keep up with it.
Yeah, you're spending like an hour of your day trying to learn like augmented licks and
and then
it's like you hardly even use it compared to the other basic stuff.
And you have nothing to pull from. You got to learn where that comes from, and then all of a sudden it just comes out. You have to learn where all this stuff comes from, and all this theory, all this really dense licks and all that stuff. It all is formed from very, very basic stuff.
Yeah,
especially in the guitar. There's tons of shapes. There's connecting two of the different arpeggios and upper structures and like the way everything works. It sets itself out really beautiful if you take some time and take a step back. For me, I definitely really overwhelmed myself with jazz in the beginning, and I stepped in too deep, like too quick, and I learned a couple standards and immediately went and learned like Don Lee, exactly what you said, and had that down, right? And I was like, I remember I even had it, I was playing it like 300 BPM, and I was making videos, so I was going to send it to Juilliard. Because Whit Marcell's just got named the head of Jazz Studies there, even though I don't think he's really ever there that much. But I was like, I'm going to send it to Whit Marcell's and send all these people and try and get like awesome scholarship. And like, I would play the melody, and then like solo, and then I wouldn't be able to like play the melody out. It was so fast, you know. It's like you can't play what you don't know. I think like George Benson or someone said that. When I was just having a conversation with somebody recently, and it's like, you want to play all these cool things, but you don't know where it's coming from, and you got to figure out where it's coming from before it really actually sounds good. You could play it note for note, but it won't even sound good if it's like if it's so foreign to you.
Yeah, the foundations are so very important, and I truly believe that the majority of people skip over. It's like
it's very easy to. Yes.
Yeah, I was having a discussion with Joe earlier this week about we're writing something together for the future of Fret Buzz the podcast, and I was talking about how I was taking one of my students. I think she's 9 years old, and I spent the last month on the circle of fifths with her,
right?
whole month, and that's like, and then I actually looked in the Hal Leonard method book. You know, book one, or no, it's in book two, and it's at the top of the page. It says key change, and it's one page, times, or no, it's not times. It's keys. It's you know, talking about keys, and it's one page. I'm like, this perfect. Is okay.
In a nutshell, here's all of music. Right, moving on.
Right,
now it's time to learn another song.
Right. So it's amazing, even in books, even in method books. And this is one of my all-time pet peeves, is how every single method book will just give you what a triad is. They don't actually take you through the process of figuring out on your own what a triad is and how to build them within any key. They just you know, you turn the page and all of a sudden there's your, you know, 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, and 7, and it's all laid out for you in front of you, and you're like, I didn't go through any of that process at all. And that's a huge process that you have to go through in order for you to kind of
Mhm.
get the foundation of. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of stuff on a page. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I need to memorize this.
And you do. Like for me, I memorized all that, but it took a long time for a lot of stuff to really settle in the way, and which, looking back on it, like when it actually clicked and made sense. You just have
Mm,
to really apply that stuff and really spend time with it.
right. It's like a language. You have to learn the basics. It's like a fourth grader coming out and talking like Shakespeare. It just
Yeah.
doesn't happen. And even if they did, they'd have no idea what they're talking about. You
Right.
really need to learn the foundations first in
Right.
order to be able to create paragraphs and
Right.
essays and
Because then you have to have it all there. So then when it's here and when you're playing, you're
mm,
not thinking about it really so
right.
much. That when you see these chords and you see a progression, when you see one chord or something, you just know. You don't have to think about anything. You just play,
Yeah.
and all this beautiful stuff comes out, flutters out just perfectly.
Yeah, and if you want to keep it to a basic foundation at parts, sweet. But then you can, here and there do a little flourish of some color because you know
Mhm.
how to and you know when it should come up, and
Yeah.
then pull it back, and then bring it in and pull it back. And that's
Yeah.
that's that's the language of music, being able to
Yeah.
know when to speak and when to actually hold back.
Yeah.
I love listening to the old blues players when I like going back to, like, I'll get caught up in jazz blues tunes, but then I'll like go and
Yeah.
listen to BB King player,
Or the
somebody
riffs and
like that.
stuff. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, he played like 3 notes, that whole, a few bars, and they were the perfect notes.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, Albert King and BB King and Freddie King, three Kings
Hmm.
they're all great. I mean, Albert King is one of my favorites because, I just like the guitar techs or someone at the show would pick up his guitar and
Hmm.
couldn't even figure out like what tuning. It's not anywhere close to the standard tuning guitar. That thing would be tuned different all the time. He would just be bending up to the notes. So not
Mhm.
only is he playing very simple stuff, he's also making it work under circumstances, whichever way he knows how. It's
Yeah.
he's playing it with such conviction and such feeling, like
Hmm.
that it makes such a big difference.
Mm.
And that's what I learned a lot doing the BB King All Star thing this past year, is playing with feeling. And I think it's gonna, going back now in the time of my life where I'm about to start going full force into learning jazz and standards again.
Yeah.
Is that with everything else going on forward though, is that time and feeling is everything, and rhythm is the validator. That's a quote I remember that my teacher told me, Tronzo, the really tough one I was talking about. I said, no matter what,
Hmm.
you can be playing to a crowd, everyone can connect to the rhythm. No one, you could play this big, fancy, streaming line of notes, and you played this amazing, like really fast, like A minor pentatonic over at B flat major 7 to give it like this like
Hmm.
really cool Lydian sound or something, and no one's gonna care in the audience. No one's gonna care except for like
Yeah.
three people, except
Right.
for us three. We're like,
Yep.
oh, that was really cool, right? That
Yep.
was, he just nailed that. Everybody else is like, they heard, "Ugh,"
Yeah.
and then nothing. Like, you didn't feel anything.
Right.
So it's like you got to present your ideas in a way to the crowd that makes sense, and that's just, it's such a tough thing. That's when you hear these players, a lot of these blues players. Why does it sound so good? Because you can hear it. They can really hear and feel what they're playing, and they put it out there and they present it in a way that's very accessible to all ears and
Yeah.
all kind of people. Like you have to make music very accessible, and that's why sometimes even jazz can really stray people away because it cannot be so accessible at first. It might be kind of intimidating,
Yeah.
or it might seem like it's really dense. But there's so much other stuff going on that really what meets the ear and the eye.
So speaking of accessibility, I've mentioned this before on previous podcasts, but like I left school and I found out that I like it was hard to find a place that would let me play jazz.
Right? Yeah.
So
And it's not like like a regular bar gig. It's not like you
yeah, I
don't
mean, even
like
the
pop
retirement
stuff.
homes, they didn't want me to like.
Really?
They don't want to hear bebop. That's for sure. They like hearing they want to hear like Misty and
Misty.
all
Yeah,
the
just
things
play
you are. They want
Misty.
to hear those kind of things, but they don't want to
My
hear
Funny
you
Valentine.
play, bebop. But I've started to actually take I take the jazz tunes and I'll put them with a really modern groove,
Yeah.
with a really clear downbeat, like I find that the rhythm section loses a lot of people that don't understand jazz.
Yeah.
Like the drum, you know, you'll be going through the form and nobody even really hit. There's no crash at the top. There's nothing.
Nobody hits
people don't know where they are. Yeah.
There's no
yeah. It's like
yeah.
you take the same jazz tune. Like I do this with Boplicity a lot from Miles Davis and Gil Evans.
Okay.
It's like a super cool. I do a chord solo
It's a beautiful
thing.
song.
Yeah, I do a chord solo thing, but I put it with my looper, and I put a hip hop groove behind it.
Yeah.
And it starts out, and people are like, "Man, that was cool. What was that?" And I was like, "That was Miles Davis."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No way."
Here comes the sub drop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not that crazy, but it's more
I'm
it
kidding.
grooves. It's very clear rhythmically.
Yeah.
And people really like a lot of the jazz tunes. I do miss the upbeat with an R&B groove behind it.
Yeah.
Throw some
People
dubstep in there.
respond really well.
Yeah.
And y'all are killing me. I'm just saying, I think jazz, I feel very strongly that jazz needs to not be like, people need to bring their noses down and like make it accessible, at least in some realms. Like, yeah, you can go out and like play a jazz show at a jazz club and you don't have to, you do it traditionally, but I really like jazz that brings in a lot of the modern,
Right.
just
Because
basic rhythm anyway.
right. I mean, I guess we could say it's musicians' music to a sense, but then there's all sorts of styles that is geared towards musicians. Like, so I think sometimes people get overwhelmed because they just don't know what's going on when they hear a lot of this stuff. And it's whether or not you're a musician, it's really easy to get swayed, to just get turned off by it. Like if there's too much going on, you get bored. Like I don't understand what's going on. You get bored. Like you have to feel.
Yeah.
It has to be accessible.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back into your time at Berkeley.
Okay.
And leading through your story a little bit.
Okay.
You at your final semester and exiting Berkeley, what were your ideas? What were you thinking about in terms of once you actually leave Berkeley? What are you being set up for, and what are your what are your ideas in terms of what's next for you?
Well, it sort of started to appear towards the end that I was getting a lot of different styles under my fingers, and I was being molded into a pretty versatile player. So I think towards the end, it was coming out being confident that I could either get picked up to go onto a tour with somebody or do some session work, something where I could just kind of be the guy you can call and sit in, and be willing and able and ready to produce different styles of music in a way that's actually comes across like whether or not you might fully know it, because sometimes you don't fully know exactly what you need to bring forth in a certain recording session. But I think that I was very well equipped to be faced with a lot of different kind of sessions and different styles and be able to do its justice, whether or not I might have had a lot of experience playing like Latin music or something, or gypsy jazz or something like that, for instance, but getting a little bit of this and that here. And I was very confident I was going to get work. But the thing was, when I got out of there, I'm like, well, I don't know I didn't really know actually what I was going to do. I was going to go back, and I was going to go back. Well, I'm going to start at first. I'm going to start teaching a little bit, and I'm going to start doing gigs. I wanted to really work on writing music. So the past couple of years, I've written music, and I just haven't compiled anything together. So it's like, oh, I want to make a band, or I want to go just try and find a tour opportunity. It was very cluttered. I was actually very cluttered, Aaron. I didn't know exactly what.
I asked that because I think that's a very common theme with a lot of people, where they're coming out of an institution of any sort, and they're about to graduate, and you have all these ideas of what could happen. But then when you're thrown on the other side of that, you're kind of like, whoa, shit. Like in order for there to be something there, I have to make it happen. And that in itself is that's a huge job unto itself, is to finding work for yourself. Sometimes institutions have a placement program and they'll set you up with something. But just going out and finding that work for yourself, whether it is touring or whether it's teaching, or any of those avenues, studio work, that's on I think a lot of where your networking comes in, and
Yeah,
almost on your exit of any one of those places, you
yeah,
have to be in that process already, because there are a lot of people on the other side of it kind of go, okay,
yeah,
this is a lot harder than I thought it was, and
yes,
I don't know what to do with myself. And the more time that you wait, your chances of doing something within the music profession start dwindling more and
yes,
more.
yes. I guess what I mentioned, about the styles, like being able to come out there, that was the one thing I was confident in.
Hmm.
I could be very uncertain about the future and what I'm going to do for work, but at least I came out of Berkeley being very well equipped, and I was very grateful that I actually did so many different things while I was there and did so many different ensembles. I did Motown ensemble with Jerry Reed and
It's
all that
awesome.
stuff, just regular straight ahead jazz. I mean, I did everything,
Yeah.
the Indian stuff. So I was at least confident in my and knowing that, like, well, if I might pick up some work that I don't necessarily I don't want to say want to do, but may kind of doing some gigs. I might not right down your alley. At least I'm equipped well enough to be able to fit into that style,
Yeah.
so I can work on my own stuff on the side and figure out where I want to go. But just I felt very well equipped to be able to do this and that and pick up work. But it was like, all of a sudden you're about to leave and you have nothing serious set up. You're either gonna go do an internship, you're gonna move back home, you're gonna hang around Boston for a little bit or hang around where you were around the teachers and students, kind of, and see if you can make something happen. I was working with some teachers there. One of the guys in the gospel department, I got really big into a lot of gospel while I was there, and they
Hmm.
have some very good ensembles there. Dennis Montgomery III is a good friend of mine, and he had actually pretty much he started the whole gospel program there, if you will, like back in the '80s, and he has like 6, 7 different ensembles from Negro spirituals to men's gospel and women's gospel and overjoyed. And I spent a lot of time playing with him, and it's like I was kind of going to hold on to as long as I could, I think, to also hanging around, which I see people do, like kind of hanging around teachers they made friends with and seeing that they can get work. But you have to understand that you can't just hang around somebody that already has a good thing going and
Yeah.
like expect them to kind of bring you in. There's only so much somebody can do before you really have to be looking out for yourself.
Right.
And
Yeah.
although I was very grateful to kind of spend as much time as I did with that particular teacher and be able to work with them as much as I did, you got to go out and do your own thing and throw yourself into the middle of it and be okay with not exactly knowing what's going to happen, but you need to make sure you're well equipped for any and everything.
Right.
So I didn't come out there as just a straight ahead jazz player. I didn't come out there as just like an R&B, I'm going to play my minor nine shapes
Right.
everywhere. Like some people make that stuff sound really good. Some people have one thing they stick with because they sound so good. Someone can just play a straight blues shuffle way better than someone else can because they sound really good doing it.
Right.
So for me, I was like, okay, well, I can sound good enough doing multiple different styles, and some styles I sound very strong in. So at least I'm very confident, very grateful that my time at this particular school, Berkeley, enabled me to be able to have so many different learning experiences. And they had the Creative Development Center there, of course, which I went to. And pretty much what I was instructed there was, which I had not been doing, was to get my online resume set up, if you will, which includes Instagram for the most part, a website, and LinkedIn. But I don't really think LinkedIn is that efficient for musicians nowadays unless you're trying to get a job like within a school network of schools, or possibly doing some more corporate stuff, or maybe working for like music parks or something. But
Mhm.
I was instructed when I left there was to get my online presence as strong as I can, and and then to just to get content, build content. And that was
Right.
one thing I've been trying to do a lot this year,
Yeah,
and considering in the next year.
did they have any classes at Berkeley, like music business classes, like
Oh
how
yeah,
to do your personal,
oh yeah,
how to set
and
up your website, how to set up your teaching studio, how to do your taxes?
all sorts of stuff, man. And you would, looking back on it now, I should have utilized a lot of that a lot more, but I chose to
Mhm.
utilize other stuff more. I chose to go to these really cool classes and these concerts and stuff where I could have, that day, maybe I shouldn't have gone to that recital. Maybe I should have gone to the hour lecture on how to, how to copyright something. What is copyright? You know, little things like that now I have to look up and figure out, like, well, damn, I kind of missed out on some of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And they did offer a lot of that. It wasn't just, you know, straight music. They have a music business program there, and they have some great teachers there. I had one of my good friends who graduated from the music business department, and I took some classes there, and it was very good, very informative. It's easy to overlook all that. Everybody wants to overlook all that when you're just surrounded by a bunch of talent, a bunch of really cool courses, and you just want to play. You know, that's what you want to do. You want to go there and just play your butt off, and just jam with friends, and after just going and renting an ensemble room for 4 hours and just playing, and you know, which is great. You need that. You learn a lot by being around other students and whatnot. You know, everybody's studying from somebody else, and everybody's trying to bring something forth, but again, I wish I had taken a step back like I am now and really reevaluating how I think about myself as a musician and how I think about music business and how much you really need to be well equipped in the world of the music business and know your way around advertising yourself, because essentially all of us coming out of there, you know, we're all in business for ourselves. We're all entrepreneurs. You know, I created an LLC for myself. I have my own company, so I can start to write off all the traveling, all the driving, and all the gear. So I get some tax write-off or whatever for that, you know, because you have to start doing little things like that now. I feel like just trying to save as much money as you can. And then we are in business for ourselves. And it takes a lot more than you think. You really have to spend a lot of time. I need to write out a plan as one of my goals. So write out a big agenda and a plan and see where I am right now and where I want to be, and try to get some organization, because we don't have any organization at all, which I, again, was really poor with and getting better at now. But it really helps to have some sort of plan and be a little organized. And if you don't get to where you want to be, like, you can't get discouraged. A lot of my friends are having to work regular jobs because wherever they might have moved to, where they are right now, it's hard to get work. Whether it's just a normal gig or whether it's a wedding gig or just steady work, you know, just because some of this work is not steady. I'm very thankful that this cruise thing, that's one of the best things about the cruise gig, is that it is steady.
So take again. Oh, you were going to say something, Joe?
Yeah, before we jump, I wanted to go back to you mentioned being an LLC. So you started your own. I don't have that, but I do write off all of those things.
You can still do it.
Yeah, I log all my mileage to and from lessons, gigs. All of my equipment is on a sheet, and they actually do. Like, I do the what's it called when it becomes less valuable each year? Depreciation. I get depreciation.
Oh yeah, right.
There's a lot of
attention in economics, right?
What's that? Oh, economics.
Pay attention a little more. Now it's all paying off. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta be. I say this all the time, but like, I have an Excel spreadsheet, my master one for the year.
Yeah.
I log every invoice, every time I was paid for that invoice. There's color codes, and people in the real world don't pay you off, and often not on purpose. They will lose the invoice, and 3 months later, you're like, you know what? I never got paid for some gig, and you got to email them. They're like, "Oh, sorry, got lost." You got to be really organized and look after yourself. One of the best classes I took at George Mason was called The Art of Teaching Music.
Okay.
And the first half of the class, so they split it into 2 parts, and the first half was all focused on actually teaching private lessons, and we would actually do. We would teach each other. Or the teacher brought in some of her private kids, kids and we would, as a class, somebody would teach them and everyone would sit around and watch, and then we'd analyze what they did and stuff. Very helpful for thinking about how to approach private lessons, how to not come across as a know-it-all and above their head, and how to get down on their level and talk about things that are meaningful. It was that part was great, but I really, really got a lot out of the business side of it, where we literally had to write our own private studio business plan. The kind of thing that you give out to your students the first day you have them, here's my late policy, here's my
the syllabus.
miss less. Yeah. If you miss a lesson, you have to decide whether you're going to charge them for that lesson. And it's much better to be upfront about these things than to just like let people walk all over you. Because if you don't have a policy, a lot of times they're like, it'll be okay.
Right.
Yeah, we learned how to we talked a lot about taxes in that class.
Yep.
A lot of real world stuff. And I use that so much today.
Yeah.
Like every day. I mean, maybe I was older when I went back to school.
Yeah.
I think I was 25 when I went back, and I had already spent 4 years working professional job, and I knew I was very aware of how fortunate I was to be back in school, and it seemed like a dream come true to me. And I was surrounded by 18, 19-year-olds who were, I love them, but I was in a different mental place.
Oh, entirely different. And it's so interesting when all those couple of years can make such a difference when, when you go to college, 18, 19. For me, when I was there, 20, going on 21, going to Berkeley, and I was there until last year. But like how much the past 3 years, I'm 24, almost 25, like the past 3-4 years, how much I've changed, like, and how I think about myself and how I think about where I'm going and how I can help take care of myself and my career. It makes such a big difference. And, it's like you really need to kind of almost construct your own kind of curriculum, your own kind of syllabus for yourself based on where you're on, where you're going. Give yourself at least some sort of structure, because it's so hard to have absolutely no structure and not having any certain
no boss.
Exactly. So you have no direction, which then becomes very terrifying. That's what's very scary, is that when you don't have at least somebody breathing down your neck, being a complete, just evil person. Like there's times when I was really having a tough time taking lessons with one teacher at Berkeley, and you get pissed off in the moment, but then once all that's gone, you realize how much you needed that, and you still need it, or you would like to go through that process on a new level, so it's
and that kind of goes back to what I was saying before, is that when you're in school, you have direction. You have to show up at this time for this class, and you have to be over here to do this, and you have an ensemble at this time, and these people are depending on you, and this team is depending on you, and you have all this work that has to be done because, well, I signed up for it. And now that I'm out of school, none of that exists at all, and that's really scary.
It's very scary.
Some people can't do that. They need a boss.
Exactly.
And within your personality, it's very important that you know that. Like, am I the kind of person that can lead and make my own decisions and make my own path happen, or am I the kind of person that I need somebody to push me? I need somebody to kind of lead me along, because otherwise I don't end up doing it.
You get comfortable. Then you're comfortable with where you are, but then still you get in this weird headspace where you're comfortable with where you are, but then you're also fed up with where you are. And then you just all of a sudden you just don't. Because you're not used to getting thrown into that.
I find I get pushed, even though I don't have a boss, I have like hundreds of bosses. Like every parent of every student is my boss. Every bar owner or whatever, they're all my bosses, and I find that provides a lot of motivation for me when I have
but
like I had this
get to that point, that's my point, is that in between now you have the bosses, but before you didn't have any of those bosses, you know what I mean? So it took your personality to create that environment to have bosses. There are people that I would venture to say there's a lot of people that don't have that initiative to go out and make that happen.
If you don't have any initiative, I don't know what to tell you, but you got to have some amount to go out and find something. Like at least walk across to the coffee shop and be like, I'd like a gig. They ask what type of music. They like, we only want acoustic. Well, there's your motivation. Like, okay, well, I've been playing in ensembles and bands and stuff. I need to shed acoustic, my finger style for the next few months so I can get this gig. That's just an example, but like, oh, you want to teach piano students? I need to brush up on my piano playing to be able to really market myself as a beginner intermediate piano teacher. You gotta have some way to make money. There's gotta be something that you've decided you want to go out and do and set that goal for yourself.
It's just really disheartening when you have a lot of these great musicians, people I graduated with, and then you have to go through the conversation and them like, well, I'm not getting work right now. I'm working at this so-and-so just to get by. And for them, it's very frustrating because you just spend all this money and it might not even be something you can control when you're just not getting work. Maybe you had this whole plan and it just fell through. Sometimes in this world, it's really hard to know where your profession in the world of music is going to take you.
Yeah.
But
So,
you have to have a plan. You know, that's something I need to.
Yeah.
So one of the wonderful things about George Mason, I mean, I think that George Mason's jazz program was really great, partially because we had big in Washington D.C. in that region. Like my teacher, Rick Whitehead he did 10 years with the Airmen of Note, and then Sean Purcell is the current guitarist for the Navy Commodores. You know, they're playing like presidential events. They're like, we have a lot of the big stable military bands in the region, and most of the professors had been involved or were involved with that. And there was also the Kennedy Center, which provided a lot of, you know, professional classical music and that sort of thing. Yeah. But George, all that being said, and I love our jazz department, the music education department at Mason was really serious, and they spit out they claimed like 90 something % of their students got a job like walking out the door because they were going to work. They placed all the graduates almost into the school systems to teach, which I thought was really incredible.
That's very nice. Yeah.
Like that is a serious, like you go into music education, you go into this program, you're going to walk out the door with a job.
Right.
If you get through it. And, I was always impressed by that, and it inspired my route. I took all the music education classes. Like I took upper strings and lower strings, and I took woodwinds and things like that, to just because I understood that George Mason had an emphasis on music education. Yeah. And yeah, but another thing with all those military bands, there was a lot of we often had military recruiters in our lobby, the hall lobby. And I mean, I know a lot of guys that went the military route, and you graduate from school, you go right down, like if you join the Navy band, you go right down to the Navy School of Music down here. It's near Virginia Beach, right? Maybe it's technically in Virginia Beach, but it's you know, you got like a 8-hour day job where you like practice music and do your thing, and you know, you travel around the country playing music, and it's for a good cause. And, you know, it's a serious job. Yeah. You get paid like, I don't know, 50, 60 grand a year to go out and play music. Right. That's terrific. And so in the surface of, you know, the country, like you're trying to, you know, promote patriotism and, you know, make people aware of the military. So you're doing something positive. Yeah. And you're making a lot of money. So for all the people that haven't thought about it, the military music route is a very serious route. I mean, you do end up playing a lot of like military music, but that's not all it is. Right. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. There are some very specific directions you can go coming out of school if you know about those directions. Right, and not be afraid to just go and do that for a bit, because you're gonna have to do something no matter what. Yeah. Just bring money coming out of college. It might not, again, like I said, it might not be something you're going to enjoy, or it might be something just to bring money in, and then you can focus on what you want to do on the side. You know, I had one teacher tell me, Rick Peckham, who was in charge, he used to be, I believe, the assistant chair at Berkeley, but now he runs the Jerry Reed and Chet Atkins stuff, and does a lot of that, and has a couple of other courses he teaches. But he was like, he remembers just doing some tour with like a bar band. And he would just spend all his time in the hotel after the shows, practicing reading and practicing through all these books to prepare himself to be an educator at some point. And he got to where he wanted to be. He had to do a gig he didn't want to do, really, playing music he didn't really want to play, but he got through it, and he equipped himself to be where he is today, and where he has been for the last, over 30 years. And he's loving every moment of it. He gets to travel the world, goes to India, Hong Kong, like all crazy places. And that's terrific. Well, speaking of traveling all over the world, I know Aaron was trying to bring it up a few minutes ago. Let me go to the bathroom. Can I go to the bathroom real quick? No. All right. Yeah, go. Yeah. We're definitely going to not edit that out.